If you enjoyed today's video, please consider subscribing to the channel. When you do, make sure you hit the notification bell. That means that you will be informed of when a new video has been released. If you would like to take that support one step further, you can do that via Patreon, which is an optional monthly service. You can donate money towards the channel, or you can go over to Ko-fi.com, and for the price of a coffee you can help donate towards the channel as well. Links for all of those will be in the description of the video, and without further ado, enjoy the video. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whenever you happen to be watching this. Welcome along to another video on the channel. Today it is an update video coming from the SIL. We have had two big pieces of breaking news coming from the SIL. So in this video it is going to be broken down into two parts. The first one is going to be the announcement coming from the AGM about certain teams being promoted, no relegations, etc, etc. A lot of new teams have entered into the SIL, which is great news and fantastic from our perspective. And the second part of the video is going to be based on the potential start dates of the 2020 to 2021 football season. So a lot to break down in this video. We're going to start, as we normally do in these videos, with the update coming from the senior division. Yes, before we get started, I am aware of the current state of my hair. I am going to be getting a haircut hopefully shortly when some rules start to relax. But yeah, look at the state of it. Look at those flicks. That is terrible. So first of all, if we look at the senior division, which I am now looking at on my screen, you'll notice that there are 17 teams in the division. Obviously, we had Bradford United folding this season, which meant that only one relegation place was going to be happening in the division, but there still were going to be two promotions. Now, you'll see this throughout the leagues. What has happened is that the SIL have decided that no relegations are going to be happening for the upcoming season. So in blue, you will see there the Westerfield United are there. That in blue for each division means that they are not going to be relegated. However, the ones in green, in this case we have Halesworth and Ransoms, have been promoted from the first division. So massive congratulations to those guys. That looks, I would say, the most competitive senior division since I've been covering SIL and the Suffolk football in general. That is the most competitive that I've seen. I think Halesworth and Ransoms are both going to be able to compete just as well as Old Newton and Bilderson did in this current season. We've got a lot of good teams in there. You know, Achilles are rebuilding up from scratch. We've got Bilderson, Bournvale, Bennell. Look at, you know, some of these teams, you know, Claydon, Copse, Crane, Henley. There's some amazing teams. I haven't even named them all, but there are some brilliant teams in here. I think, as I said, this could be the most competitive we've seen in this division. I'm really excited to see what can happen in this top flight. So in Division 1, we have 14 teams. As you can see, Barham and Mendlesham have been saved from relegation based on the results as they were cut at that particular point in the season. But we do see Bedricksworth and also Tattingstone United promoted up from Division 2. I would say that this is the most competitive division in the whole of the SIL. Now, some may disagree and say that Division 2 is potentially the most competitive, but I think when you look on paper, Bacton are going to be putting up a hell of a fight next year. They've got a lot to prove because last season was a disappointing campaign for them. You know, you look at some of these teams, Bevericks and Tattingstone are not just going to come into this division and just settle for mid-table. They're going to want to be going for it. Southwold had a very good season. Sporting are always strong. Falcons had a decent campaign. Wickham Market, I would probably hesitate to say are the favourites for that division, but you know, there are a lot of teams in this division that are going to be wanting to try and put last season's disappointment behind them. I'm thinking, you know, when Hastings, Grunsborough, obviously two teams that got relegated, that is going to be so competitive next year. I can't wait to see what this division is capable of. So Division 2 now, we've got 14 teams, so exactly the same as last year. We have Somersham and Thurston, who are not going to be relegated from Division 2. Obviously, I've spoken to Luke Riley, who's the Thurston player manager. He's obviously quite happy. Well, he's happy, very happy with that decision. But we do see Elmswell and Melton promoted into this division. Now, again, you look at things on paper, And yes, you can say, right, Bevericksworth and Tattingstone have gone. Yeah. But Bramford Road Old Boys, AFC Your Shirts, Wolverstone and Ufford, who are right up there this season, are going to be right up there again. Ufford are going through a lot of change in the moment. They're bringing in a lot of new players. They're going to be a very competitive side. Elmswell and Melton, again, very similar to Division 1, the teams going up to there. They're not just going to come in and settle for just your run-of-the-mill, let's just stay in a division average place. They're all going for this. They really, really are going for this. I think, again, it's so competitive. We are going to be in for a fantastic season next year. I just hope that for the likes of Thurston and Somersham, this is an opportunity for them to kind of, restock and not let what happened this season happen again. But as it's so competitive, it's going to be very, very difficult for all of the teams who finish near the bottom to compete. But who knows? Who honestly knows? It's so interesting in Division 2. So Division 3 is where things start to get a bit interesting. We have got 14 teams compared to 11 in this division from last season. All of the teams in red are brand new teams. So we've got AFC Wanderers, Attleborough, Great Blakenham, Bromford United, which is a very contentious thing, which I am going to talk about in a moment. We've got Locomotive Laxfield, which is a brilliant name, and Unity SC. So, yeah, again, looking at things from last season, Melton and Elmswell, great. They've gone up as worthy winners and as second place from this division. But Kesgrave, they're doing a lot of great things off the field and have made some impressive signings. If they can continue to do what they're doing between now and whenever the season starts, they're in for a very, very good campaign. We've got a lot of teams in the middle of that table that didn't get to fulfil their fixtures last season. We have, for example, Bardwell, who ended up finishing only playing 10 games last season. So we never really got to see what some of these teams in Division 3 were capable of. And now we've got 6 new teams as well. It's going to be really interesting. I've been speaking to a lot of boys in Division 3, and they're excited to see what some of these new teams are capable of. It's you're going into a bit of an unknown, but sometimes that can be good rather than going up against the same players and complacency can kick in. You can't be complacent against something you don't know. You've got to be on your guard and ready at all times. So for a lot of teams in this division, it's very, very exciting. But the big talking point is about Bramford. But again, I will talk about that in a moment. So Intermediate A, we do not see any relegations from this division. We are going from an 11-team format into a 14-team format, which means 3 promotions. So we have Capel Plough, Henley and Ransom's Reserves all getting promoted from the B division. And again, speaking to a lot of boys who are now in the A, it's really, really competitive. If you look at things on paper, last season Old Newton finished top. Claydon had a game in hand, but they were 1 point behind them. Cops were 4 points behind top of the table, but had 4 games in hand. This is a very, very competitive league, and with 3 brand new teams in, 14 teams, it can only bring more competition. Intermediate B, we have the division going from 12 teams to 14 teams. We've got 3 promotions obviously up into the A. Bennell Reserves do not get relegated. They are not relegated. They finish bottom with 10 points, but they do not get relegated. And we have 5 teams promoted from Intermediate C. We've got Claydon A, Grunsborough, Halesworth, Needlemarket A and Walsham Le Willows A. Intermediate C is going from 12 teams to 13 teams. Somersham, who finished bottom, are not being relegated. However, we do have 5 teams coming up from Division 4. They are Bournevale, Berrytown Rams, Leiston A, Stowmarket Town A and Walsham Le Willows B. So 2 promotions for Walsham Le Willows. And finally, to look on, we have Division 4. Now, again, no relegations from this particular division because there's nowhere for you to get relegated to. So we see 5 new teams coming into the SIL, starting at the bottom and then hoping to work their way up through the intermediates. We have Debenham Reserves, Ipswich Exile Reserves, Mendlesham Reserves, Stonham Aspel Reserves and Stowe Falcons A. So some of the big talking points, I suppose, really, the first one is the fact that there are no relegations that are going to be happening in the SIL. Do I agree with it? Not really. If I'm being brutally honest, I think it is rewarding failure. However, I think that we are in such unprecedented times and things are so uncertain at the moment that when you are not able to complete a season, there are going to be a lot of clubs who will say, well, hang on, if we were able to finish it, we would have survived. And I think when you've got that air of contention in there, I think it's very harsh to relegate certain teams. Now, obviously, in the senior division, we had the fact that Bromford United ended up folding, which I'll talk about in a second. I promise I will. Now, that has had a bit of a shuffle-on effect for the rest of the leagues. Now, you know, they've made the promotions and they've rewarded people for being promoted, which is absolutely the right thing to do. That wouldn't have been fair if they didn't allow that to happen. But I get it. I understand why they're not relegating teams. I mean, I think there will be a lot of people who are not particularly happy about it. You'll have to let me know down in the comment section why you're not happy about it. But you know, you see plenty of stuff online to know that people won't be happy with it. I suppose really the other bone of contention is the fact that Bromford United are back in the SIL. Now, under the rules of the league, if you fold, you have to wait 2 seasons to enter the Football League again. Now, I suppose really the bone of contention is the fact that the season is null and void. It's been expunged. It didn't count from last season. So, should they be allowed back in? I don't really know where I stand on it, because you are saying that last season did count because you're promoting teams. But then you're saying that last season didn't count because you're not relegating teams. So it's a bit of a tricky one to kind of hang my hat on any sort of side of the argument, really. I suppose for me personally, I don't want to see teams fold. I don't want to see teams dropping out of the division. I know a couple of boys who play for the reserves there. Quite personally, they are good mates of mine. So, you know, there is a bit of personal feeling towards it. I don't want to see them fold, and you know, hopefully we can start to see the club picking themselves up again. But I think that ultimately the right decision has been made to put them in Division 3. I think if you had put them back into the senior division, that would have been a massive slap in the face to a lot of teams who have waited and have been patient to come into the SIL. And I've talked to a few clubs about it who were not happy, who had to wait, who had to bide their time. But again, we're on unprecedented times. It's so difficult to say what is the right or wrong answer, and I get why people's frustrations are there. But I'd love to know your thoughts on the situation. Do you agree with the decision to let Bromford back in the league? What do you make of it? Do you agree that they should be in Division 3, or do you think they should go into the senior division? Let's hear your thoughts on that. So yeah, those are the divisions. Let's move in to when potentially we're going to be starting up a season. Who knows? So the day before the AGM took place, the SIL released this statement on their website. Now it goes on to say about the future plans and getting ready for the upcoming season. A number of clubs have asked the question, what are we going to do with fixtures once we get the go-ahead to start, especially if the start is delayed? To help all clubs understand before the AGM, below is how I see things at present. Now it goes on to talk about the uncertainty. We're needing to follow government guidelines. That is ultimately what they're saying in the next paragraph. If we are able to start in August, September, October, then we may be able to get a full calendar completed going into May and possibly June of next year. The FA have indicated if we start at the later part of this period, then the Suffolk FA Cups and League Cups can be put aside to allow league fixtures as the preference. We realise clubs need a friendly match or two to get themselves ready and up to speed. If we start later than October, it will probably mean a half-season programme of fixtures are played instead of the full programme. This means playing all teams only once, and the games will be balanced to give all teams matches against top or bottom rated sides. This will mean seeding all teams, and it will be done by last season's points per game, with promoted teams added to the bottom of the seeds. Where new clubs are in a division, they will be added alphabetically alongside the league games. If space is available, then we will try and run our League Cups. So from that statement, what you are seeing is that if the season starts in August, September, or the beginning of October, then we will be able to get a full campaign done and dusted. There will be potentially no breaks in between games, which I know sometimes during the campaign we do see some weekends where teams are not playing for 2 or 3 weeks at a time. You know, the later we start, that won't be happening this season. It is going to be week in, week out. However, if it starts any later than October, we will only be able to get half a season done. Now, that's fair enough. We are in the hands of the government. God help us. It is down to them to decide basically when we kick things off. And the SIL have done the right thing. They've said the right thing. It's good that they've come out with a statement and said, look, this is the situation. This is what we think. This is what we're going to try and do. But ultimately, it's not up to us. It's up to them. So we're letting you know what we think. The rest is beyond our control, which is perfectly the right thing to do. However, what is not on this statement, and what I have been told, is that despite the fact that last season was null and void, we are still trying to get the cup competitions from last season finished. Now, for me, this is where the issue of Bramford United comes in. And the reason I'm saying that is because if you are saying that last season is null and void, and that is the reason why they are allowed to come back into Division 3, you've scrapped the leagues. You cannot play the cup competitions, in my opinion. You can't turn around to clubs who have waited and bided their time and played along with the rules to come back into the SIL and say that it's okay for Bromford to come in, when you're saying, no, the reason why they are is because the season has been null and void. The FA have completely cancelled the season, which they have, and you've decided to make that steps for Division 1, 2, 3, etc. below. You can't then use that as an excuse to then say, right, that's why Bromford are coming in, but we're going to play the cup competitions. For me, that just doesn't sit well. That doesn't sit well. The reason why clubs want to have a semi-finals and then potentially the final is because they get to go to Portman Road. And whilst, look, I'm a Norwich fan, going to Portman Road was never something I dreamed about as a kid. But I would love to play there. Hell yeah, I'd love to play there. I would love to play at Portman Road. Who wouldn't? It's a massive stadium. And, you know, it's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for a lot of people. But are Ipswich going to realistically allow for you guys to be playing there in July and August when they're preparing for a new season? No. No, they're not. They allow you to play at the end of the season because in a couple of weeks' time they're going to be tearing up their pitch. So where are these games going to be played? Is my question. But you know that's just my thoughts. I don't know. I'm just kind of spitballing. But I'd love to hear what you guys make about it. I'd love to hear your thoughts. As I said, in terms of the statement, 100% behind the SIL. I completely. That is the right thing to do. They have done the right thing. They are talking, they are communicating, it's a clear statement, there's no wish-wash about it, this is the situation that we're at. But if the rumour about the cups is to be believed, then that's where I then have an issue, because I just personally do not agree with completing the cups. And I know there are a lot of teams out there who will be annoyed at that particular statement because they are one of those teams in the semi-finals. However, there have been a lot of teams in the leagues, and I'm thinking off the top of my head Sporting, who, you know, and obviously who were we looking at a moment ago as Bromford Road Old Boys, wasn't it? Yeah, Bromford Road Old Boys from Division 2, who are going to be thinking, well, hang on, this isn't fair. We had a chance for promotion and we're told our season can't continue, but the cup competitions are going to be allowed? I don't know. Let me know what you think about it. I don't want to end on a sour note because that's not the type of content I want to be bringing. I don't want to have a dispute with the league. I don't want to have a negative associated with this video. I'm just saying how I personally feel about it, but I want to hear from you guys. That's the most important thing. What do you make of the decision to if the Cups are to go ahead, and what do you make of a statement? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Ultimately, what we all want and what we're all crying out for is for the football season to get back and running. That is all we want. That is all we want, and hopefully it can be done in a safe and controlled way, and we can get back to some sort of normality ASAP. But yeah, I'm going to end it there. If you have enjoyed this video, make sure you leave a big thumbs up on there and subscribe to the channel. If you want to take the support of the channel one step further, you would have heard the introduction to the video. If you want to help me out in terms of covering costs for all this kind of stuff, like, for when the season kicks up and running, like travel costs and, making the videos and stuff like that, you can support me on either Patreon or Ko-fi. Links for both of those will be in the description. It really, really does mean a lot. And thank you to those guys who do already. But yeah, until next time, as always on the channel, until we see each other next time, adios. I am knackered. Oh my God, it's so bloody hot in this room. It's so hot. God.